Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode, the 50th episode of the Southern Comfort Podcast. Kevin, we made it.
I
Made
know.
it.
I
Dun,
know.
dun, dun.
And, you know, didn't see this on the bingo card at the beginning, at the top of the year. I feel like this all came together. Like, I mean, we kind of said little stuff, but like it actually came together. Like I ordered the equipment and everything. I feel like it was like 2 weeks. This all came together, and now we 50 episodes or so in. It's
It's
crazy.
50 and um, haven't missed a week.
No.
And we're probably going to shut it down for the season. And the seasons are pretty much over, right? Like
Yeah.
Christmas is past. We're New Year's is in a couple of days, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're ushering in a new year, and I think you and I have talked about it, like what this next phase is going to be of the Southern Comfort Podcast, and so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're gonna do some fine tuning. We need to tune up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Throw some D's on that. You know,
Mhm, mhm,
tint the windows out a little bit.
mhm, mhm.
Throw a little beat
Yeah.
in the trunk. Give us a little. Hopefully get a good sponsor. Oh,
Yeah, and bring some more special guests,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and get those voices, included and incorporated in it as well, and I think we're gonna come back around our anniversary, which I believe is that first week of February, so Black History Month.
Yeah, like I mean, what
Well, I get if we still having Black History Month, I don't know.
do you think?
Is it banned yet?
You think it's fell victim to DEI?
You
So
know, it might just rename it Trump history. You know,
so
we hey,
He might just get rid of months
hey,
altogether and say Trump month 1, Trump month 2.
I'm telling you. I mean, we got rid of the penny. So,
Well, the penny wasn't even worth a penny.
yeah, well, uh, anyway, there's going to be a Trump coin before he leaves.
That's
It's
that's so
it's
that's
you
a
know,
penny with a hole in it.
$1,000 bill or something
That's called
crazy,
it's called monopoly money.
literally,
Mm.
literally. So, but anyway, we'll be back. It's been a great year, and I'm proud of the listenership that we've built. I'm proud that we were able to be consistent and produce some really good high quality content and analysis, and then also expand that right with a lot of the opinion pieces that we put together under the name Maroon Bison, and I didn't count how many pieces total we've done. I want to say we've done like 10, but I know that the pieces have run in over 50 publications around the country. So
Oh,
it's
yeah,
pretty
well,
remarkable.
I started losing count, uh, probably September.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So a big milestone for us, but, how was Christmas?
Christmas was good. We stayed here in Florida, and exchange gifts. We always exchange some of the gifts on Christmas Eve, and then we do the rest on Christmas Day. And then, we chill, man. Usually we go to the beach, and we just hang out and just enjoy the day. So that's what we did this year. What y'all do?
Same, man. We kept it in the state. I think this was the first year that we, haven't been traveling we've been traveling last 5 years for Christmas, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
Miami or somewhere. I think we did Cali one year, so,
Mm-hmm.
stayed at home, or his parents are here, of course.
Mm-hmm.
They spend it with my side of the family, which is always interesting,
Mm-hmm.
for them, just because.
Everybody, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
so they're not used to a big family, right? Like, even their family growing up for them wasn't big, and so they've only
Mm-hmm.
it's Aura and her
Mm-hmm.
brother, but, like,
Mm-hmm.
Aura's dad only has 2 siblings, Aura's
Mm.
mom only has 1 sibling. I mean, I got 4 siblings, they all got 3 kids a pop, right? Like,
Mhm,
those
mhm,
kids now got kids, and,
mhm,
it's
mhm,
I mean, I have 8 nieces and nephews alone. It's 8 or 9. It's too many, too damn many. So, you add that plus the spouses, right? It's never a
It's a
dull
lot of
moment.
y'all.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of y'all.
It's a lot. So,
My wife, I think, was the same. I mean, they had their nuclear, family, but when she married me, she was like, I've been with you years. How am I still meeting cousins?" And I was like, "It's a lot of us." And when we got married, we had to kind of cut that guest list down to, we needed to keep it like around 100 people. It was hard, man. It
yeah,
was to the point where, I can't cut no more because at this point I'm inviting, your sister, but not you. And but so it was hard, man. I got a lot of cousins. I'm my only child, so I don't have nieces, nephews, all that stuff, but it's a lot of.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was always cool. And then for New Year's, man, we gonna kick it. I think we're gonna go Hawks play
Mm,
Anthony Edwards.
mhm,
So,
mm,
I'm gonna go see my boy Ant Man, but still root for my
mhm,
Hawks.
mhm. Well, maybe
Uh
he wanna play for the Hawks since Trey don't.
who knows what Trey want to do, but I gladly will take him. I
Know what he
think
don't wanna do.
I think Ant Man is the closest thing to Kobe being Bryant. So,
That boy smooth, and, I guess they sure Michael Jordan not his daddy, but I'm just saying there are some
yeah.
resemblances
Oh
in the
yeah.
way they play. If you kinda look a little bit at him,
Squint your eye.
I don't know, but he is a talent, and it's just like raw talent, and you can tell the more he um becomes just smarter, right? And more knowledgeable about like the game and stuff, right? The more he plays, he's gonna be bad. And that boy Wimby too is like another one where that shit could look dangerous like in a few years,
Bro,
man.
I
Like,
just saw him here in Atlanta last week.
yeah. Yeah.
God awful. I mean, I left at the beginning of the fourth quarter. It was that bad.
Really?
Man, it was that
Hmm.
bad. It was that bad. And he
Like
wasn't
he
even
was playing bad or
no, he didn't even start. And he came off the
wow.
bench and was just
Really?
yeah, man. I think he
No.
probably played a total of 20 minutes.
Oh, he must have still been in anyway, well, it was more than Trey.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, the Falcons, Hawks, Falcons, they all, yeah.
Falcons gone Falcon.
So speaking of gonna do what they gonna do, right?
Mhm.
So we left off last episode. We talked about Christmas movies. I'm still
Mhm.
watching some. But before that, we were harping on Dim Minimum.
Mhm.
We were harping on what else? We were talking about GOP healthcare.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think in between this episode and those previous episodes, the big Cheeto, El Presidente gave an address. What for? Like this beats me. But he gave a prime time address. Um, Typically, does the president give an address during Christmas? I think maybe. I
Not necessarily. Not unless something's going on.
yeah. So
They usually record like a message or something and just kinda like put it out, on social media, but they don't usually ask for times from the
right,
networks to give a address.
right. So this was his prime time. What I'm gonna call his prime time Fantasyland address to the nation. Right. He
Mhm.
lives in his own world of delusions.
Mhm.
But he announced a $1,700 warrior dividend for about 1.5 million military members.
Mhm.
I find it interesting that he did that. First of all, it seemed like his address was geared more towards a plea to the nation to say, still believe in me, still trust me, right?
Right. Right.
It wasn't really, him giving any pertinent information or trying to explain the situation. He claimed that the economy is poised for a major boom.
Mhm.
Tried to talk about data. right? I don't think he really understands what data is. I think it's some woman he used to talk to back in the 70s. Um, but the reality of the situation is inflation increased 3%, up from 2.3% in April, right? Job growth is at a stall, right, since April. Unemployment numbers jumped up from January to 4.6, which was
Mhm,
previously 4%.
mhm,
All these things going on, he has the nerve to announce bonuses while the economy is actively getting worse, right?
mhm, 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 mhm,
So, I just wonder, given like his state of mind and the vanity that, he needs to have to hear himself speak and let people know that, one, it's not his fault because again, he still blames Biden.
mhm,
He blamed
mhm.
Biden for the Falcons losing to the Patriots, right? Like, bruh, like what's going on here?
Well, I think a lot of things are interesting about it. I think the fact that there was a speech at all is interesting because just before that, the White House was saying, and Trump specifically was saying, affordability was another one of those hoaxes made up by the Democrats. It wasn't even a real thing. That's not what's happening. This is fake news. And then at the same time, they're announcing that he's going to go out and give some speeches around the country, and then also do this primetime address because I think, obviously they see the numbers, right? They see it. And I think also he is clued into this from his first term, right? Like economically, the country wasn't doing he had some good cases to make right before COVID. And then COVID sunk his economy and that kind of helped to usher him out. And so he's acutely aware of the politics right around this and how important it is that he maintains like an advantage and the party maintains an advantage of it. And I think that they're very much worried about the impacts that this is going to have on the midterms and what the second half of his of this term looks like if you have a Democratic Congress and they can then they have subpoena power at that point as well. And so I think a lot of that was driving why he gave the speech in the first place because he understands the political vulnerability. But I think it fell. I think it fell flat. I just think it wasn't particularly convincing to folks. And also, what I thought was interesting too is that like all I could think about when I was watching it is, well, what if Biden had done the same thing, right? Because Biden got the same criticism where, they didn't think he talked about affordability enough. He never went to the country and said, can you guys, in the same kind of way, right? Can you guys have to give me patience, right? To be
Right.
able to dig us out of this. I know that things, have gotten more expensive. I know I see, your pain and everything else, but you got to give these policies time to work. We didn't sufficiently do that during Biden's presidency, and then also when we switched nominees and we're going with Kamala Harris. And one last thing I'll say about like the military piece and the braises, this to me is more that hypocrisy, right? That they don't get called out enough for. Okay, you're gonna give them a little bit of a raise. Okay, sure, right? But I think they'd rather not go into an unnecessary war in Venezuela, which you're clearly setting us up to do, right? Your chief of staff basically said this is about regime change and not drugs, right? So there's all this sort of false kind of talk about being patriotic and supporting the troops and doing like this window dressing, but not actually really coming through when it counts. And I also think Democrats gotta call that out more too.
Yeah, essentially in our world, this is a teaching podcast, right? So free game, everybody. Once again, like in our political consulting world, we call this counter programming, right? When bad economic news is coming, you got to change the narrative, right? Tell a
Mhm.
different story. And so military bonuses poll well, right?
Yeah.
Patriotic appeals um, distract from the fundamentals. And right now, the problem is you can't eat patriotism when inflation is eating your paycheck, right? Like
Mhm,
that's
mhm,
essentially what it is. And so,
mhm.
That man Trump stood in front of America and just flat out lied confidently with
Mhm.
charts, right? He had charts behind him, right? And so like let's break down, like we talk about fact checking, right? Break it down.
Mhm. Mhm.
He claimed he inherited a record inflation from Biden. Bruh, the, since January 2025, inflation is the same as it was then as it is right now,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Ain't shit changed but the name on the mill, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
He said prices are coming down fast. They steadily going up, right?
Mhm.
Like, um, he talks about claims of drug prices being reduced 4, 500, 600%. Bruh, first of all, that's mathematically impossible. Mathematically impossible.
They be paying you to be on medicine
Right.
if it went down
Right.
that much.
You
Yeah.
can't reduce anything
Yeah.
beyond
And
100%.
this is who's in charge of the economy. Can't
Right.
debate
And
their
so
math.
I think the the bullshit pill that he is expecting Americans to swallow, first you call affordability a hoax, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Second, you basically pee in our face and tell us it's raining.
Mhm.
And now third, you wanna, try to do a thing of goodwill by tossing a check to military people, but everybody is feeling the effects of this, right?
Th They are. In the military, right, this is the same military that you guys shut down the government
Mm,
and
mm,
didn't pay,
and didn't
right?
pay.
Okay.
Didn't pay.
And you're cutting programs like food stamps. Unfortunately, members of our armed services, right, are on food stamps and on
Right,
food assistance, right?
right,
And you guys are stripping that back. But like you said, it's all about like counter programming, right? Oh, here's $1,500, but never mind the unnecessary war that I'm dangling, getting us involved in, and never mind the fact that I've cut all of these other support systems as well that our military deserves, and that a lot of people deserve. And so I think people feel it, people see it, and I think though what's interesting is that other members of the party I think are starting to not so much see the fallacy in these policies that they're producing, but they're at least starting to see what the political damages and the political realities are. And I think that's why you're starting to see some of them even push back on Trump a little bit, right? You saw him lose the Epstein vote. You saw him lose um, we're going to have another healthcare vote here, right? And the Republicans in the House didn't want to have another healthcare vote, but you got Republicans who joined with Democrats to do what they call a discharge petition. And a discharge petition means you can basically override the Speaker of the House and put something on the floor. Usually the leadership determines what bills come up for a vote, but the membership can override it if you get a majority vote for a discharge petition. So Republicans bucked the system on Epstein, and they just bucked the system again on healthcare. And so even they're starting to see, like, even if they don't, you know, disagree with the policies per se, they recognize that the American people do. And, I know we're going to talk about the momentum continuing, but if you didn't continue to see Democrats still winning big in these elections as all of this was happening, you would not see Trump and the Republicans trying to course correct like this.
Well, it's interesting. I also feel like his address was trying to help paint a picture for his Republican cohorts to use in the
Correct.
midterms, right? And
Yes.
so in the address, there was still him trying to implement immigration fear mongering, right? I think he touched on something about 11,000, over 11,000, almost 12,000 murderer figures, and try to pin that on Biden and in Biden's term. But that was over a 40-year span, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
ain't no way in hell there was over 12,000 murders in like
Four
a
years.
4-year term off
Yeah.
the bend of COVID, right? Like,
Hmm.
claims about immigrants from prisons and mental institutions with no evidence,
Hmm.
right? And I think he knows that fear sells to his base rather than facts,
Yes.
right? And so, hoping that that would create coming off the losses that they've suffered since the November election, right through these
Hmm.
special elections, thinking that that could build up some momentum for them going into the new year. And I just think the more fabrication he sells, he thinks that it will give the juice to the MAGA base. I'm not sure about the moderates. I think the moderates are realizing the error of their ways. And so, you know, his speech was more partisan than a typical presidential address, right? Those charts and graphs he used it like a rally instead for as my address to the nation.
Mhm, mhm.
And you know, he closed with like a patriotic appeal about 250 anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, but he probably can't even spell the Declaration of Independence. He probably couldn't even tell you, right, what the preamble is or, right, the articles, right, like the first 10 articles, right? Like, I don't, you know, he's factually challenged. And I, 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 it ties into the question, is he getting too old? And the Republicans see the writing on the wall, right? The whispers are starting to happen in the halls of Congress, right? The rambling, the incoherent, the disconnect is trumping up even more now.
Yeah. Well, I think that they also realize that a lot of the appeal doesn't translate to them, right? A lot of Trump's politics might do well for Trump when Trump's on the ballot, but it doesn't necessarily do well for the party, right? When he's not on the ballot, right? And I think some of it may have clearly waned, right, a little bit, right? He's starting to see support soften within key groups, right, where he made inroads, right, particularly in the Latino community, right. As an example, you're starting to see a lot of that vote kind of shift back over to the Democrats, and you're starting to see, like you mentioned, moderates, right, a lot of those independent voters who were economic voters, right, who
Right.
voted on that are basically tired of waiting, right,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
release on relief, and they don't understand why a ballroom is getting prioritized ahead of bringing down cost at the grocery store. They don't understand, these tariffs, right?
Right. Right.
And why that hasn't brought down cost. And so a lot of the rhetoric that they're seeing doesn't match the reality of their daily lives. And even in that address, right, the roadmap that he laid out was like how to defend me, how to
Mhm.
defend my
Mhm.
record, talk
Mhm.
about what it was like when I got here. None of it was about how to go out there and actually sell to the American people what we've done and what we've been fighting for, because the truth of the matter is it's unpopular, right? Like people like the healthcare subsidies. You guys were against it, right? People don't like the tariffs. You guys are for them, right? People don't really care about Joe Biden like that anymore.
Right.
And that's why
He's an afterthought,
that's why
right?
they voted for somebody else, right? And so everything that's coming out of there, is not really focused and prioritized on the American people, and it's created an opportunity for Democrats, and you got Republicans that are not Trump that are in Congress that have to be on the ballot next year. They're scrambling, and that's why you see again a lot of them are talking about like we want to vote for healthcare subsidies.
So, you know, there's a reason why the previous president kind of stays silent,
Mm,
um, while the other president, you know, it's a respect factor, but I think in this case, it's give this man a rope to hang himself, right?
mhm,
And the GOP operatives right now, they're nervous. They are seeing the decline. They're seeing the polls, right now the polls are doing this up and down, up and
mhm,
down.
mhm,
And when a party starts looking past their leaders, who are still in office, that's not loyalty. That's a death watch, right? And so
mhm,
watch what Republicans do, not what they say publicly, right? Look at the 2026 candidates are already starting to distance themselves from Trump.
mhm,
You know, the consulting class is panicking. They know he's a big liability. I mean, the man basically stood in front of America, declared victory while losing, and blamed everyone else for his failures, right?
mhm,
And now even his own party is worried about his capacity, right? And so, you know, his it brings me to talk about like sort of like the economy right now and sort of like the booming. And I think him trying to this whole affordability crisis and that it's a hoax, right? Like,
mhm, mhm.
you know, the speech playing Biden, um, but everything that's going on is happening under his watch, right? Like we talked about it, inflation is up after tariff announcements, the job market is weakening, right? Things that we already know. Um, but yet you're calling this shit a hoax.
Mhm,
What's the
mhm.
reality check there?
I mean, I think the reality check is what we're seeing at the ballot box, right? Every opportunity that people have had to vote to voice their
Right.
displeasure, they voted against Republicans, except in the most extreme cases, like the Tennessee special election. Okay, but that was a 24 Trump district. They only carried it by 9, right? So every time that voters have had the opportunity to vocalize how they're feeling and what they're seeing in the country right now, they voted against Republicans. And you're right, that's what those operatives on the Republican side are seeing and feeling. And what they heard in Trump's speech was basically him saying, stay the course. And they're like, no, we don't want to stay the course. It's like, it's not working. They're not buying it.
So, like, if you're staying the course, right? So, we're talking about if we're staying the course, that still means struggling with housing costs. That still means struggling with grocery bills. That still means struggling with healthcare costs, right?
Hmm, hmm.
And we're talking about working families. And the last time I checked, a Democrat, Republican, Independent, they all check a box as a working family, right?
Yes.
So this
Yeah.
is a real measurable thing that's documented here, right?
Hmm, hmm.
And then the GOP has the nerve to gaslight Americans about their lived experience, right?
Hmm,
So
hmm.
to call high ass eggs a hoax, right? To say that, gas prices and medicine prices and the cost
Hmm.
of beef is manufactured. The inflation is manufactured. That's a
By the
hoax
Democrats,
by
by
the
the Democrats.
Democrats.
Right, like, don't you think if we could just manufacture it, we would've bought them damn prices down so Joe Biden could win again?
Right, right,
Don't you think we would've done that if we
right.
could?
This reminds me of them calling climate change a hoax as well, like the
Mhm,
denial of climate change, right?
mhm,
When your
mhm.
facts don't support your agenda, right? Attack the facts,
That's right, that's
right?
right,
Call it
that's right.
fake, exaggerated, blame the media, blame Democrat,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
Like, it's some more free game for you. Reality distortion,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
I wish
mhm.
we could have like in post production, bing, reality distortion,
We
and
can't,
definitely,
hey, maybe for season 2. Maybe that's one of the enhancements that we do for season 2, but there is a lot of distraction, and it's you know what you know there are a lot of limits to that. That's a tough place to be in from a messaging standpoint for them, but it also makes me more and more nervous about Venezuela, right?
yeah,
We got to come up with some kind of distraction, and they're clearly trying to manufacture something there. And, it makes you wonder how much more politics, right, will come into play there as we get closer to the midterms to distract people, right? And, so, but economics, like we say this all the time when we were talking about, we were trying to explain to people how Trump does well with people of color, right? They're like, well, he says racist stuff all the time. And, you
put
and
that
I,
name
we
in
used
there.
to always say, hey, economics trumps racism. And so you shouldn't be surprised if you see him do well. Well, it cuts both ways too, right? Like a lot of these folks who might agree with him on immigration, right? Who might agree with some of his rhetoric, right? On immigrants and different things like that. A lot of them, though, are like, yeah, but milk is really high. So I might be willing for the right kind of Democrat or the right kind of alternative, right? I might be willing to try the other party again. I don't agree with them on all this stuff. But again, economics trump racism. And so we've seen where that can work for Trump. But we could also see how it could work against them. And, another point I'll make on that too, man, like I remember sitting in focus groups and stuff, especially in 2008 when Obama was running against McCain and the economy was similarly in a bad place because Republicans put it there. And uh, it was a lot of people who did not like black people who voted for Barack Obama. Because again, economics trumps racism.
Well, I mean, again, right? So why is what Trump's doing working on people is because it's easier than admitting you have no solution.
Mhm.
And back then, Obama let you know he had a solution, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like you may not, the color of his skin, but you cared about the content of his character, which was the
Yeah.
solutions he was spitting out, right?
Yeah.
And I think the GOP economic policy is tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulation, and prayer, right? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, and,
Mhm.
and when the economy hurts people, just deny it, right? Like,
Mhm.
make
Mhm.
people question their own reality instead of like your policies.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think the Democrats need to understand, like, you can't assume voters will see through all of this, right? And like
Yeah.
the personal stories beat statistics any day, every time, right? And you have to amplify those.
Mhm.
You have to, as we've seen, in the previous couple of months with these special local races, you have to make it local. You have to
Mhm.
make it feel like it's real. You have to make it
Mhm.
specific so that people understand like what you're experiencing is real, is true. Your rent went up $200. That's not a fucking hoax, right?
No. No.
Your grocery bill is up $100 extra. I'm sorry, $100 extra a week. That's not manufactured,
Mhm.
right?
Look, man, they um because I don't really do the grocery shopping in our house, and we don't keep a lot of milk in the house necessarily, but I want to say my wife told me the other day a gallon of milk's like $9.
Well, I'm lactose retarded, so
Oh my god. But it made me think about folks with kids and how much milk like little
listen,
kids drink. And I'm like, $9 a gallon? And they drink it like it's water.
I was the scene from Friday when Craig going, right, we're not getting a small bowl, we're getting a big ass bowl, right? A box
They I mean,
a box of bowl.
they on Christmas break right now, stressing their parents out,
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 out.
eating all of
All the pig
the
feet,
food. I mean,
all the
everything it's like Friday, right? Like, there you
all
go.
the I want some of the pig feet.
Right. It's expensive, and people do to feel that, and to hear him say, the kids don't need 30 dolls, whatever mess he said is completely tone deaf, and I think he's gonna come to, well, he personally may not come to regret it, but I think the Republican Party will come to regret that he has so much of the messaging on this, because I don't think it's connecting.
Absolutely. And to even hit the nail on the head, we have 2 babies in the family are approaching 2, right?
Mhm.
And I had to support my niece and 1 week to buy diapers, right?
Mhm.
She was trying
Mhm.
to scrape up some money to buy diapers. I like, first of all, just ask me. We don't have any children.
Mhm. Mhm.
We're here to help. But like when I
Mhm.
went and saw how much diapers cost, and I bought from Amazon, I think I bought a box cost $53. She said that was going to last her probably about 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, 'cause all they do is go all day, and
I, I
all day,
I was like, you better get a
and
cloth. You better get.
but that's what they used to do, back in the day, and I can remember, like, some of my very best friends, they had their kids younger, and they were in their early 20s, right? So you got your kids while you're still really getting started in your career, so you don't like have all the money. And I was still working, but I didn't have nobody to take care of but myself. And so I would ask, like, yo,
Wh-
what y'all need? Like, I
Right.
want to get a baby something. And I never understood it, right? But they would always ask for diapers, and it was like you were giving them gold bars,
Uh-huh.
right? They were like, oh. And then I started thinking, and like you just said, they broke it down for me and explained it to me. And I was like, dang, you spending that much? He and my friend, Randy, he was just like, all I do is go to the store and buy diapers.
Yeah, man.
I'm here all the time. Milk, diapers,
Yeah.
milk,
Yeah.
diapers, you know? Yeah, it's expensive, and so you think about the tear, you think about the baby formula, all of these basic core necessities every day, like, these are not, and that's how you know, like, people can cut back and skimp on, you know, luxuries or extravagances, right? But that's not the conversation that's happening right now, right? People are having to skip on necessities. And when they have to do that, they get pissed and they tend to hold whoever's in charge accountable. And that, in this instance, that means Republican.
And it's crazy. These affordability issues are hitting hardest in our southern states, right? And it's
Always.
something that Christian talked about. He talked about the cost of childcare. He talked about
Mm-hmm.
what people are getting, but he also talked about the fact that there's low wages, high poverty
Mm-hmm.
rates,
Mm-hmm.
and the least amount the least amount of economic cushion happening in these southern states.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you have the Republican representatives who represent these states are the ones calling this shit a hoax, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And who's looking out for working people, right? Not the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
party calling your struggles a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so the danger here is if Democrats don't aggressively counter this narrative, um, it'll take root, you know?
Mhm, mhm,
You
mhm,
know, you can't fight lies with technical policy papers, right?
mhm,
You need clear, emotional, personal messaging, right?
mhm, mhm,
You tell people that we see you, we understand what you're going through, we believe you, right? Because let the tea leaves tell it, folks in Congress aren't financially hurting.
mhm, mhm,
But the people and maybe some of your state legislators and your city council members and your local mayors and county commissioners can help tell that story for you,
mhm, mhm,
you know,
mhm, mhm,
and say, look, we believe you, and here's what we're going to do about it. And it
mhm.
starts by, once again, we say it time and time again, organizing year round,
Yes.
you know?
Yes, these are things that we should be talking to voters in communities now, right? In conversation, in dialogue with them about what it is they're experiencing and what we propose to do about it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Not in, you know, and it's important you have those conversations now because at the end of that conversation, you're not saying, hey, now go vote in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. Right.
No, like actually take the time, sit with people, sit in community with folks, have dialogue, explain to them these issues that are at stake and what it is we want to do as a party, and it makes you better when it's time to actually have an election where people can take action about it. It makes your messaging, but most importantly, it makes your credibility so much better. It's so much stronger, particularly when you marry that with candidates that are actually rooted in these communities.
Mm.
You know, it makes it all so much better, and you not only do you expand, right, the Democratic base here too, you might pick up a few people who voted for the other guy the last time, who want to give you a shot because they like what you have to say and you took the time to talk to them. And I hope in particular we see this in rural communities as well, because rural America has been hit really hard with these tariffs, and that's why one of the things, I can't remember if he talked about it in that speech, but he has a special economic relief program for farmers. And one of the things that we talk about so much about the rural vote in the South, the reason that vote is so important is because the other thing that the Democratic Party has to understand is that our rural engagement strategy is not just white people in the Midwest.
Correct.
Rural voters are also Black and Southern.
Correct. Correct. I think, so switching gears, right? We are touching on sort of like the Democrat momentum, right?
Hmm.
And let's actually like take a step back and look at the successes here, right? Like let's break down the wins. You got Wisconsin, you got Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, you got
Hmm.
Mickey Sherrill in Jersey, you
Hmm.
got Mamdani in New York beating out Cuomo in the mayor's race. You have a historic win in Miami for mayor, right?
Hmm.
Like month by month, since November, you have Democrats
Hmm. Hmm.
flipping a district in Iowa that was plus 21 for Trump. Went plus 21 for
Mhm.
Trump. You
Mhm.
have Democrats winning in Pennsylvania uh, for a seat that was flipped since like 1880s, right?
Mhm.
You have Florida Democrats outperforming by 15 points plus. You
Mhm.
know, stuff happening in Mississippi and in Iowa, how they broke the GOP majorities in the legislature, right? In Georgia, here in our home state, you have the Public Service Commission flipping a 20-year, Republican rule seats.
Mhm.
We just had two um, state Senate seat and House seats that flipped here, right?
Mhm.
And when you talk about the numbers, remarkably, Democrats have overperformed in 227 out of 255 key elections, and that's nearly a 90% increase in support, right? They
Mhm.
flipped 25 state legislative seats, and Republicans flipped zero.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
big. That's huge right there. And we
Mhm.
talk about the momentum. When we talk about that, you know, um, Democrats consistently outperformed 2024 by double digits, and that's
Mhm.
huge, right? And so now going into this 2026 midterm, right? You now have a lot of Republicans who are withdrawing and dropping out and no longer running for reelection. I think the biggest one is Stefanik withdrew her bid for New York governor, right? Like, and she was just like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was ride or die for Trump, but hell have no fury like a woman scorned.
Man, and what was funny about that is, speaking about, Trump and addresses to the nation, her campaign ended when Trump was in the Oval Office with Mondani, and he basically said, "Yeah, Mondani's not that bad."
Mm,
All of her messaging was
mm.
about how all the Democrats in New York, including the incumbent governor, they're all Mondani. Mondani's taking over the party, and Trump's kind of like he's okay. It's kind of cool. So completely undercut her
Right.
again, and at a certain point, like, you wonder, like, when will they see that, Trump is out for Trump? He wouldn't think about her campaign. He didn't care. And she was, he was trying to get her to be his UN ambassador, but
But he
the
withdrew her name.
margins, he withdrew her name because the margins are so close in the House of Representatives, they couldn't afford to lose her, to lose her seat, to lose her vote. And so now, I mean, who knows what she'll do. Um, but it just, and you married that, right? Her kind of stepping back, and New York would have been an offensive state for them. And so what to me that really says is that there's a recognition that, like, guys, we can't go on offense. The party that can go on offense and maybe kind of go into some territories are the Democrats, right? The Republicans are just trying to hold on to what they have, and they're not sure how to do that because you just said the data and the numbers and the statistics, right? Like, those wins that you just described, a lot of those wins are in places where there were Republicans.
Right.
It wasn't just
Right.
Democrats winning Democratic seats.
Where
We flipping them.
where Trump performed like tremendously well,
That's right.
right? And
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
you ride momentum. You don't believe in it, right?
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
Special elections and off year races are indicators. They're not guarantees. And so you need to convert enthusiasm into like real infrastructure. And, I've been told fundraising is very difficult right now. Um, but you got to fundraise. You have to do it. You have to organize, and you need to really get a real candidate recruitment program, right? That's what matters. But
mhm,
I'm gonna throw some cold water on it because I just saw a poll um, that wasn't so favorable, right? Like, because while Democrats are winning these elections, the brand is still in crisis, right? A
mhm,
Quinnipiac poll had Democrats at an 18% approval rating in Congress, which is a record low for Democrats,
mhm,
and a 73% disapproval rating, which is a historic high for Democrats, right? And a Gallup poll had it at 24% approval rating in Congress.
mhm,
Um, right, like understanding, I think the poll and why Democrats are winning this race. But at the same time, the brand is still suffering a high approval rate, and I think speaks to the leadership.
I think it speaks to the leadership, and it also speaks to, just how far we have to go and how far we've fallen, right? In many ways. Like look at all the stuff that's there, right, to our advantage. And people are like, we still don't know if we like you. We like you marginally better than the other guys who we're angry with right now. The fortunate thing for Democrats is that that is not necessarily indicative of our ability to win elections and get the opportunity to govern again. But what it does say is that we have to be very careful in making sure we understand that we have to offer more than we're not them. Because people, they still don't like us either, right? We have to actually show up in communities. We have to actually talk about issues substantively, and we have to be very specific about what we will do. And you and I have talked about this before, right? Like we got to say to people what we want to do to make progress and improvements in their lives, and then we got to get power back, and then we got to actually do it. We got to follow through, right? Like folks have heard us say on this show before, right? The problem with Republicans is they always overreach, right? They didn't ask for tariffs and a war with Venezuela and all this other stuff that they're doing. That's not why they voted for them, right? But here it is that that's what they're doing, right? They didn't ask for you to let healthcare subsidies go up. But Republicans always overreach. Democrats don't reach far enough
Right, right,
when they get power. So people just kind of end up playing this ping pong ball. Like I don't know how I feel about either one of them, and so we got to make sure we're not, like what, getting high on our own supply here and thinking that we're the best thing since sliced bread. We're not, right? Our numbers are bad. Our numbers are bad. Our opportunity here is that even though voters don't like us any more than they like the Republicans, they're willing to at least listen to what we have to say, and we have to come with solutions, and we have to come with good candidates, like you said, right? Like candidate recruitment. We got to
hmm
come with candidates that make sense, and we got to campaign on and run on, what's popular. Listen to what the people and give them what they want, and then when you get in there, do it.
right. Because I think we say this, and then one of the reasons why we talk about um, our friends Randall and Brandon, Mayor Randall Whiffen of Birmingham, and Mayor Brandon Scott of Baltimore, and you could throw Andre Dickens in there as well, and
Hmm.
um, it's because local issues can override national brand,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
they are tackling local issues and making things look better for Democrats, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And the quality of an individual candidate actually truly matters more, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, in the sense of these special elections, they have different dynamics than your general election. That's
Hmm.
because lower turnout means, it means that you have more dedicated voters, right?
Hmm.
They're going to come
Hmm.
out because they know. And so here, I think you can win tactically, you can win while still losing strategically. And
Hmm.
I think that's where what Democrats are fighting right now, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, I think fundraising actually shows that, right? Like they
Hmm.
still aren't, your donors still aren't sold on the shit you selling.
No, or quite frankly, that we can execute and get it done, right? So I think we're better prepared than we would be, right? Closing out of this year with what we were able to win, right? But donors, a lot of our core voters, right? Like they were not that impressed by us in 2024. So I think we started to kind of claim some of that back here in 2025, but it's going to be a mad dash next year to get the resources in, to get the confidence in. And not just on the financial side, right? Like get people out organizing, right? And volunteering and doing these things in their local communities to help uplift, a pretty battered brand, right? It's going to take all of that for us to be successful in 2026. But one thing that's sure for sure though is that like, based on what we saw in Trump's address, right? Like they're not helping themselves, right? Continuing to sow chaos around healthcare subsidies, right, is not helpful for if you're a Republican. But we have to recognize that we still have to show up, and it's not enough to just say we're not them, because so many times we have lost elections because people just said, "I won't vote for either of them."
Yeah, yeah. I think, and they better be careful, right? Just
Mhm.
because, special election success, it
Mhm.
can mask problems with inside the brand. And I don't,
Mhm.
it can
Mhm.
mask problems on messaging, right? It
Mhm.
can mask problems in the coalition.
Mhm.
And so these early wins are great morale and fundraising boosters,
Mhm.
but it's not a substitute for fixing the fundamental problems in the party. And so
Mhm.
I think I saw something from Third Way
Mhm.
talked about how the Democratic Party is in real shape, and he thinks that they really won't see anything until the 2028 presidential nominees start to emerge, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, um, 2.1 million registered Democrats lost since 2020. Approval
Mhm.
in the 20, while Trump vandalizes the government, is particularly damaging, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm reading some notes from an article that he wrote. Think about it. Trump is historically unpopular and incompetent, yet Democrats can't break 25% approval,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And that says a lot, right? That says a lot.
Mhm.
It's just not about Trump. It's about the voters are still not trusting some of the maybe the Democrat leadership that we have in office, right?
Mhm.
So the nominees for president need to make the party brand um, feel like it needs to be revitalized and more important again, right? And so,
Mhm. Mhm.
what new class or new crop will we see for 2026 that will help shape what 2028 looks like?
See, now what I would argue is that I don't think it's the candidates, right, that's supposed to do it. I think the party needs to do it. We need to be an actual party. And candidates run in elections when it's election time. It is the responsibility of parties, right, to be present in communities year round when there isn't an election, and catering to the brand, right? I would argue that that's how we got in trouble, here before, is waiting on this Barack Obama, oracle type figure who's going to like bring us back to relevancy. That might work for a short time, right? But that don't help the party, the brand, right? It don't necessarily transfer, right? Like you said, the party's popularity right now is what, 18%. You know whose popularity is higher than that? Barack Obama's. Right. So
Right.
just because they like him don't mean they like the party, right? And so this whole notion of like, well, let's just, this is what the candidates need to do. No, we need to invest in, like you said all the time, infrastructure, build out the party and fix the brand that way.
Right.
Invest there, organize, right?
Right.
That's how you put the infrastructure in place so that when you recruit these good candidates, right, they can carry it across the finish line. But you could be the best candidate in the world, but you running with with a Democrat attached to your name and the brand's at 18%. I don't care how good you is. Again, we've seen this before. People have heard me talk about this all the time. Kobe could only do so much with Kwame Brown. Okay. So if you got a party that's at 18%, okay, that's them Kwame Brown numbers. Okay.
Right. Right.
You still
Right.
might not get the championship. You know what I mean?
Right. No, you're right. Midterms are about fundamentals, right? They're about fundamentals, and he did not have the fundamentals,
No,
right?
no,
Right. He didn't.
no.
He couldn't be in the post. He couldn't, rebound correctly. Couldn't put it back up, right? So, like in these midterms, Democrats need to be about candidate quality. They need to be about
That's
message
right.
discipline.
That's
They need to
right.
be about turnout operation, right?
That's
Like
right.
Democrats have the opportunity, but not the guarantee, and they can't confuse the good news cycle about wins with their winning strategy. And so,
Right.
I think we say it all the time. Democrats need to talk about what they're for instead of
Yeah.
what they're
Just
against.
just just saying what they are against. People are not impressed by that, and we said it on the show. We've run elections where we just made it about not Trump, right?
Right,
And the
right.
majority of those elections we've lost. So in 2026, we got to show up with a little bit more than that. We got to tell people specifically what we want to do, and then we got to get there and we got to do
Bruh, there's like so much we can continue to talk about this, but we are
it.
we are approaching the hour mark. I do want to talk
Mhm.
about just briefly why why do you think the leadership and the party or the DNC has chosen not to release the autopsy of the 2024 election and basically said they're gonna put it on the shelf?
I think because it would be divisive, and I think they recognize that we're kind of riding a wave where we're somewhat of a unified party, which a lot of times we are not. And why put this out there? And have it become fodder and a distraction when we're successfully driving messaging around healthcare, the economy, hell, Epstein, right? Why put this out there? The problem though is that, well, because you told people you would,
Right,
right? So
right.
that's the problem. So maybe, deal with that part, but that's why they don't want to put it out there because it would be a distraction and they're not wrong about that, but also not releasing it is still kind of,
Because
cutting into the messaging too. So,
it's gonna come back to bite them in the ass. Maybe
of
not
course,
now, maybe in the midterm, or maybe in 2028, right?
correct. Yep. Yep.
Particularly if Kamala is as a candidate, right? Right? And
Yeah.
so, you can run from your mistakes or your past all you want. Eventually, it's gonna rear its ugly head, right? Somebody is going to lead that within the party.
It's entirely possible, right? And we know, Russians hacked into the DNC and used it for propaganda too. So you're right, and the Russians, well, in the past they've had their preferred party. They're kind of like this kind of with them now, but you're right though. Like just having that out there and not having it released, right? It's just vulnerabilities either way you go. So I'm not sure what I would tell the party to do with that one. I think what I would do, honestly, Richard, is um we said we will release it.
I think you release it, but then
I'd release it.
I think you also organize around it and say, we're releasing this, but now we are sending out, our staff and minions to organize and build and develop strategy off of what you guys think the solution should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so
Bring
one of the
people
things
in. Yeah.
bring people in. One of the things that I want to release
Mhm.
it for is so that it could benefit people like you and I, right? To harp on what we continue to harp on, right? We're paying the same consultants to continuously put up losing numbers.
My understanding, though, is that that was a part of it,
Of course.
that they did take a look at that, and what they basically found is that, 90 something percent of the funding go to 10% of firms, and not surprisingly, those firms do not look like or reflect the coalition that we need to win. And the reason that's problematic, as we talked about before, is that that means your strategies and everything else don't reflect those coalitions either, and it can fall flat. And so I think that you know, uh, they should release it, right? Again, if for no other reason, because we said we would.
Right. Right. Um, Kev, we're approaching 60 minutes, right? We don't want to harp too long. I've seen some podcasts go an hour and 30 minutes, hour
Yeah,
40
no.
minutes. We'd like to give it to you. Of course, it's raw, uncut. We don't do any editing. There was a lot of stuff that we did not touch on. You know, we need to make an executive decision. Do we want to throw up another episode or do we want to end it on 50? Because, right, like, we still got to touch on healthcare. There's a lot of things that, I still think we need
Mhm,
to touch on.
mhm.
Um,
So
and
we might be back, y'all.
we might be back. Yeah.
We
I
might be
feel it.
back.
I
We
feel it.
we might get a couple of episodes out this week before the new year. And that's all right. That's all right. You know.
Well, when your premium bill is coming in January, it's going to be high as fuck. So, I mean, that's something that we need to talk about, right? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
something that people just need to keep an eye on. So I definitely think we may try to throw you guys some dessert, right? Some
Mhm.
dessert to close out the year.
Mhm.
So you can take a few Southern Comfort pounds into 2026 with you.
Mhm.
On that note, seeing as how we will be back, I do want to close out with a Mamba moment,
Yeah.
and say that my Mamba moment is us,
Oh,
right? Like our dedication and commitment to 50 episodes, right?
right.
Relentlessness for 50 episodes, right? Like you coming to Atlanta to record in the studio. Shout out to
Mhm.
Spark Social, Dre, bro, what up?
Mhm.
Um, um, Stu and his dedication to ensuring like the episode gets out.
Mhm.
Our clips are there. It's up on
Mhm.
YouTube. And whether he's traveling or putting down little man,
Mhm.
right, like his dedication to a bunch of HBCU brothers that he didn't know from Adam, but he knew by word of mouth.
Mhm.
To our wives for putting up with this, to our MAGA Republican subscribers who like to comment on the channel, and
We
then of
do
course
appreciate y'all.
we appreciate y'all, right?
Appreciate y'all.
And to our guests, right? So it's to us. Like we appreciate y'all being on this journey with us and helping build out what we've enjoyed over these
Mhm.
last 50 weeks.
Well, I second that, and I do. Like I said, when we started this, we were like I said, it just started. It was just conversation. We're just gonna get
Yeah.
some conversations recorded. We're gonna see where we're going, and the response has been fantastic. And I think that it's been one of the more definitely best parts of my career and different, getting to do something like this, right? So I'm appreciative and grateful for that. And then the only other thing I would say, I want to give the Mamba moment too. I actually want to give it to Joe Biden. And the reason I want to give it to Joe Biden as we go into the new year is because on January the 1st, there are going to be your prescription drugs for
Mm.
drugs that treat cancer, heart disease, autoimmune conditions, and the diabetes. All of
Diabetes.
that is going to be cheaper because of Joe Biden. And the man got kicked around and all this other stuff. But this is an example of what actual presidential leadership looks like, right? You stay the course because you know what you're fighting for. You know why you're there and who you're there for. And you know you might not get the credit while you're in office because everybody's trying to kick you now, but you know the impact you're making, and you just got to be tough enough to see it through and get it done. And so January the 1st, right? Couple weeks, not even a couple weeks, a week, right? There are going to be people who are getting more affordable prescription drugs simply because Joe Biden gave a damn
Joe Biden.
and did it. So Joe Biden,
Robinette. Is it Joe Robinette Biden?
Joseph Robinette Biden, malarkey.
All right, man. Well, we'll figure out next couple episodes. Hopefully Stu don't choke us out. All
All right, y'all.
right,
Appreciate y'all.
y'all.
Peace.
Peace.